G'day guys, Tools20 here. Welcome back to Planet Coaster. City Skylines. We are going to be checking out this new pack that's just hit the Steam Workshop where you can create your own custom roller coasters. This pack is made by a few asset creators. Bad Peanut, Besquigglehausen, and Sven Berlin put this pack together. It was an idea I had a few months ago. I'll give you a bit more of the backstory within the time lapse, but these guys really ran with it and made it into what it is today. It's a lot of fun and really easy to use. I'm gonna give you a step-by-step tutorial on how to build your first roller coaster using the pack, and then we'll add in a couple of mods like Move It and No Controller and Traffic President mod. And then I'll even show you how you can ride your roller coaster. I mean, how cool is that? I've got a pretty good idea whereabouts I'm going to build one within Dundee, and we'll do that in the time lapse a little later on in this episode. But first, let's dive into a blank map and have a look at what we can do with the pack straight out of the box. Once you've subscribed to the pack on the Steam Workshop, you can find the assets within the Transportation tab, go on over to Trains, and there are your assets. You've got 4 to choose from: roller coaster platform, high-speed track, chain lift, and then the standard track. And I'll talk about how each one of these work. We're going to start with our roller coaster platform, but first things first, we're going to make sure our area is nice and flat. You can place your platform wherever you like. It also snaps to a road, and then most importantly, it snaps to a footpath, which I think would be perfect for when you start making your amusement park. For this tutorial though, I'm just going to place it just like that. Keep in mind that these assets are decorative, so they don't need any power, so this is fine just the way it is. Next step is to start dragging out our track, and I'm going to create just a very simple roller coaster for now. We're going to start with our chain lift, so I'm going to click on chain lift, and then we'll start dragging out our network. I'm going to have a bit of straight track, then I'll connect both sides of the platform up, and I might even delete this one so then I can start raising up our chain lift. So it's pretty simple. You just start raising up your chain lift. You don't want to have it too steep. These things are usually pretty gradual in terms of their slope, but you know what? We are going to make a pretty big roller coaster. So we'll go like, I don't know, some like, there we go. Beautiful. I'm going to keep using our chain lift because we want it to go pretty slow around the first bend. And I'm going to make a pretty standard out and back roller coaster. So we'll just do a full turnaround like that. And then for our drops, we're going to switch to the high speed so that our roller coaster is going at full speed. It is tempting to make these drops really steep, but if you make them too steep, the train asset will just fall off the rails. It will continue to follow along, but it's not a good look. So I'm going to make them fairly gradual, and we can have a bit of an experiment with some steeper slopes a little later on when we start playing with the nodes with Move It. But for now, let's just keep it fairly standard. I'm going to do some dips like that. That is a pretty nice looking hill right there. I want to try and keep it a little bit smaller than the main drop. We'll do another hill. Now I'm just going to change the elevation slope because hopefully then I can get a little bit more gradual. That's what we want. So we want it to be, for our turnaround, a bit higher than our bunny hops. Like that. And we're going to start returning back to our station. And then the trick with the ending is that you want it to line up where it first started off, but you need to leave a little bit of room so it does connect up to our second platform. So I'm going to drop it down so that it's at the same level. Ooh, it's a bit of a steep drop for the very finale, but that's fine. We're going to plop that there. And then we'll connect up our platforms like that. Now, something that I forgot to do, and it's because I got carried away, but that's totally fine, is that I've made it the high speed the whole way around. I don't really want to do that. I want to make sure that we have a lower speed in some of these areas. So I'm going to go back through and update all my track. So all this is lift hill, and then we're going to have the high speed on the drop, and this can be high speed, all this can be high speed. But then back around here, we don't really want that high speed, so I'm going to put it as standard. That can be high speed, all of that can be high speed. And then we'll make that a bit slower, and then the rest is fine. And make that standard. All right, and I think we're ready to see this roller coaster in action. The next thing you've got to do though, is you're going to put down a train line. I know this seems a bit strange, but don't worry, it's going to make sense. We're going to start our line there. It's going to stop at the second platform, do another cycle, and end at our first stop. See how that works? It's pretty clever, isn't it? And there we go, a roller coaster. Okay, that's not going to work. What we need to do is we're going to go back to our line. So I'm going to select our line that's down there. And we don't want that model. We want our roller coaster model. There he is. And look who it is. It's our roller coaster. I mean, how sick does that look? So we can actually watch this thing go around, and if we need to make some adjustments to the speed, we totally can. Like I said, if it's too steep on some of these angles, then the train will actually come off the rails. It will keep following the path along, but it won't look very nice. So you do want to make sure that it is not too steep. We'll see how this looks. Oh yeah. That's perfect. It's looking pretty good. It's still on its rails. Still on its rails. It's doing all right. Then it goes much slower up here. This is actually working out really nicely. And that's how you make custom roller coasters in City Skylines. Pretty nuts, hey? I mean, I am really excited to see what sort of stuff you guys come up with, and I'm excited to give this a go using it more than just 5 minutes. I mean, that was a 5-minute job. Let's spend a bit of time on this. I'm going to use some mods just to make some adjustments to our roller coaster. The first mod I'm going to use is Traffic President mod, and I'm going to use it on some of these speed hills, because I mean, that's exactly what they are. They are speed hills. It is flying over these ones. I reckon we make some adjustments to the speed limit. So if I go to our speed limit down here, and yeah, okay, 60. How about we change that to something like, well, not 10. Maybe we go 40, and then we can put this one back to 50. And then as it climbs up this one, maybe we put it as 50. And then around these corners, we'll make that 30. And I'm just going through and adjusting the speed just so it goes a bit slower in some areas, particularly around the end of the track. I think it's going to be losing a bit of speed. So we'll probably make this about 50 around here. You can go 40 and then about 50. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so it's getting a lot faster on some of the hills as it goes down and slower as it rises up to those hills. So that's a bit better. All right. Yeah, okay, that's much better. But like I said, I'm going to make an adjustment to this hill over here. So I think I'll grab, using Move It, I'll grab that node and drag him a bit closer. And then I'll get this node and we'll go a bit closer. Whoop, better be a bit careful. That's better. And I think that's a much better slope. We might even do the same over here. Just make it a bit steeper, but not too steep. And even this one, we might just raise that up a bit more. Beautiful. So with Move It, you've actually got way more ability to make some adjustments on some of these hills. So you can pretty much just drag it out the way you want and then use Move It just to make some slight adjustments like that. Beautiful. I'm going to make it a bit slower up here. And I even think that's probably a bit steep. So I might grab those nodes. We'll grab this one, and we're going to drop them down. And that's pretty simple. I mean, I'm not really doing a huge amount there, not doing anything too crazy. You know what, speaking of crazy, let's do some crazy stuff. You see this corner here? Let's give this a bit of a bank, and I'm going to use no controller to do that. So I'm going to grab this node up here. There we go. And for the twist, I'm going to give it a twist like that. 30 degrees. We'll do another twist on this one. And then we'll do another twist on this one. And we'll see how the train... Yeah. I mean, how good's that? In fact, I might just do a little bank on this one. Nothing too crazy. 25 degrees, I think, is probably the best one. And then you see this section here where the track goes through the other bit of track? Well, don't worry about that, because Bad Peanut actually built in a function to get rid of that. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to demolish that segment. I'm gonna demolish this one too. I'm gonna re-drag it out like that. And then now that I've got that segment like that, I'm gonna go to our info view. I'm gonna go to, oh, that's not gonna be a good thing. I'll go to traffic routes. I'm gonna select this network and I'm gonna call it just anything. I could type in whatever I like. And that's going to give a little gap like that. How cool is that? If I demolish this one and then reconnect it up, we should just have a gap between that. You can't do it on the whole network because it pretty much is a whole network, but you can do it on little segments and then rejoin it up. And then if it doesn't totally line up, we can just use move it. There we go. Wonderful. And I mean, that's as easy as it is. It is a super easy pack to use, using a couple of extra mods, particularly Move It, definitely enhances your build, but absolutely not essential. We're gonna now dive into Dundee because I have a pretty good idea of whereabouts I wanna build a roller coaster within our city. We're going to be spending a couple of episodes working on an amusement park that's going to sit right on the water's edge of the city. Taking inspiration from Luna Park down in Melbourne, there is a classic roller coaster that travels around the perimeter of the amusement park known as the Scenic Railway. This thing is over 100 years old and an absolute icon of Melbourne. But the whole of Luna Park is going to be of inspiration for this build over the next couple of episodes. In fact, we do have a Luna Park up in Sydney as well. It's quite different, but it's still got the essence there. There's actually a bunch of Luna Parks around the world, a lot of which are defunct now. I guess the most famous one would probably be in New York, which is the other one that I've been to. And now Oceania is going to get one. Dundee, the city of Dundee, now has a Luna Park. We're just going to be building the roller coaster today, of course, and man, this thing turns out quite nice. We'll be doing a live play at the end, fixing up a couple of things, and I'll be sharing a couple of extra tips that I don't think I'm going to be able to share within the time lapse. And I reckon we'll also take a ride on this thing. And then in terms of what we've been up to so far, I've just been prepping the land just to make sure that it is nice and flat. I mean, it doesn't really matter so much for when you are dragging out the roller coaster network, but for the platform, you do want that to be nice and flat. So I was making sure that I was keeping to the same height, and I think what also really helps just to get nice and close to, I mean, particularly these areas where you do have a metro network that is making the landscape much higher up on this area. But to get nice and close there, I am using the terrain network, and I think I've probably, there it is, yeah. I'm just using it to get nice and close to that edge because I think that, well, yeah, I mean, you can see the platform, it gets pretty close, so I did need to make sure that we were keeping it all the same height. So yeah, that's what we've been doing, and I will, like, there's a lot of trial and error here. I wanted to make sure that, at least dragging out this network was going to be along the edge of the park. I guess if it was sort of in the corner somewhere, I could probably get away with a lot more imperfections and, not really worry about where some of the network is being stretched out to. But because this is the edge, I really had to make sure that I was giving myself enough room to build the amusement park in the next episode. So hopefully I've done that. And it is a lot of trial and error, particularly when I am building a roller coaster that is probably on the more realistic side of things. I reckon if you were going to build one like I built before in the tutorial, keeping the drops fairly large and making it cover a fair amount of ground. That was quite a large coaster that I built there. This one is definitely on the smaller side of things, in particular between elements and even the size of the types of elements that I'm creating here. We are doing, again, trying to keep it fairly realistic. I am using Google Earth quite a lot just to fly through and check out how big this thing is. I mean, mine is also a lot larger than the Scenic Railway within Luna Park, but I am also just trying to make sure that, we are keeping within the scale within the game, which is always a bit tricky because it is quite different to reality, but then also leaving enough room for the actual train itself to maneuver around some of these areas. Now, I'm going to be honest, it does a pretty good job of doing that. It actually is a very flexible roller coaster. It does, you can make some pretty tight corners and make some pretty steep hills. So that's actually something that you don't really need to worry about. But at the beginning here, I definitely am. A couple of things that I've been up to. So I really wanted to make the actual line go through those 2 pillars on either side of the face. That's the main entrance into the park. That entrance is actually from Sydney Luna Park, which I'm actually kind of happy about because I would like to mix in, both those parks within this park that we are building. We are going to still call it Luna Park, but, I didn't want it just to be purely based on Melbourne's Luna Park. Did want to make sure that we are trying to incorporate both those places. Don't want to just do a recreation, though there is definitely going to be more similarities to Melbourne than there is to Sydney's one. So I guess that's a nice little incorporation there. But I'm going to be using pretty much, we are somewhat limited to the amount of rides that we can use within the game. I have grabbed some from the Steam Workshop. But I think the vanilla ones, the ones that come with Park Life, are actually pretty nice. So I'll be using a bunch of them, as long as they are not too large or, they sort of fit in with our scale. But anyway, I've lost track of what I was talking about. I wanted the actual track itself to go through those pillars, which is something that happens down in Melbourne. I wanted to do something similar. It's actually like a really, really cool feature, but unfortunately I just couldn't figure out a way of doing it. I did actually turn those pillars, that entrance, into a procedural object to hopefully maybe manipulate it so that I could do it, but it just didn't really work out that way. So I've just left it. It just goes behind it, which is totally fine. And you will see, I will go through and make sure that there is a gap so that we are, actually look, it's already there. I believe it's there. I'm squinting, I'm looking if I can see it. Yeah, it looks like there is a gap, which is pretty cool. That's that feature that Bad Peanut put into this network, that you can create those gaps so that the actual track line can go underneath or through the structure. But you know what? That actually works out really well for this situation because we needed people to get through the structure just to get into the amusement park in the first place. But you know what? I am fumbling around with this network, so this might be a good point for me to start talking about how this asset got made in the first place. So this was an idea I had probably maybe like 9 months ago. I was fumbling around with this, trying to make some sort of roller coaster network. Just with a train line itself, I was using no controller, just to make the track really thin. And then I was going to go through and add in my own support structure. So it's going to be a real mess. And the things that I was trying to do with it was just really messy, but it was definitely possible. I could definitely use a train line network. I think I found one on the Steam Workshop that was like a super narrow train line and it didn't have any support structures. So that was actually kind of a little bit better. So I was using that and trying to make that work using no controller by making it super small and using Move It and pretty much everything that I'm doing right now. And then I got in touch with Besquigelhausen, who is the master of creating vehicles, and said, hey, like I've got this idea, I just need a carriage, like how hard would that be? And he's like, oh, that's easy, I can do that, but I need someone to make the people. I was like, I'll get Sven Berlin because he's made a whole bunch of different people. So he was very happy. He made some little prop people to put inside the carriage, and that was made. And then I had a little go at making this work with the bad network that I created, and it was all right. It was passable, but it was just all right. And then I just got to talking to Bad Peanut about the idea, just very casually, just saying, hey, like I'm trying to make this thing. It's not really working very well. And then all of a sudden he starts sending me screenshots of this network and platform and all these ideas that he was having for this whole pack. I actually didn't even realize he had created different speeds for the track as well until I started playing with it. Actually, pretty much that tutorial, when you saw that tutorial, I was seeing that for the first time. So, that was really exciting because it meant that even if you weren't using or planning on using any mods to create your roller coaster, you could in fact just create it just as, just pretty much as vanilla as you like it. Of course, I think Move It is definitely it definitely helps out. And even using some of the anarchies definitely helps to get it nice and close and to create a pretty smooth looking network, but absolutely not essential. So, massive thanks to those guys. They just ran with it. It was just an idea and I never really expected it to look like this. I remember the first time we were working on this, it was very buggy, because when you are making vehicles, I know that Jay was having a hard time with vehicles because it is such a small vehicle going at a pretty fast speed. So I am quite impressed that he did manage to make it work. And something I haven't mentioned yet, but he has also included this feature. So when it is going up the lift hill, I believe it's going at a certain speed. I think it's going at about 10 miles per hour or something like that. But he has it so that when it goes up that lift hill, it even makes the chain lift sound, which is, I mean, that's pretty great. I didn't ask for that. So yeah, a big thanks to those guys for making this. This is just such a great pack, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the types of builds that you guys get up to. If you want to share any of the builds that you do with this pack, you can check out my Discord channel. We have a just a channel over there that is dedicated to City Showcase. So if you do have something to show off, I mean, do let me know, because I am after more inspiration. This is, I guess, my second attempt at a roller coaster. It is fairly different to the one that we made in the tutorial, but I reckon you could really make some very interesting stuff. So do hit me up over there. I would be interested to see what people get up to. But in terms of the build, we are pretty much done. I'm just making some small little tweaks here and there. Most importantly, making sure that people have access to the park so they're not going, not trying to navigate through this support structure. Can you imagine walking into an amusement park and you have to climb over a couple of supports just to get into the place? I mean, this place is going to be definitely more on the amusement side of things than any sort of theme park. It would be sort of fun to build, I don't know, maybe even something even sort of massive. You could actually probably do like a zoo meets an amusement park type of thing, like something like Busch Gardens or SeaWorld or something like that. That would be a lot of fun. I reckon we've now got quite a lot of assets that we could actually just dedicate. I mean, you could do you could just build an entire theme park. I mean, now that we've got the ability to make roller coasters, and even Sven Berlin has released that pack where you can create your own go-kart track. I mean, you could probably make a dark ride or even a backstage tour. I mean, there's quite a lot of possibilities when it comes to making an amusement park now that we have so many different assets. But you know what? That is actually something that we'll be doing a little later on in a new series. But that's all I'm going to say about that. We are pretty much wrapping up this time lapse. I'm just going through and seeing just what sort of signage we can place on this ride. I ended up choosing this one that says Golden Nugget. Thought that is a pretty good looking sign, but it is a terrible name for a roller coaster. So maybe we'll just sit on that, think about that for a little bit longer. But let's jump back into a live play and see how everything's working. So this is pretty much how our coaster is going to look. I think we'll change a couple of bits and pieces here and there, but I am pretty happy with how this has turned out. I mean, it's kind of nuts that we can create something like this within City Skylines. It's a bit of a dream come true, to be honest. So this is a pretty perfect starting point. We've got a coaster just beginning its circuit. So we do have two coasters going at the moment. I'll talk a little bit about that in a sec. But as you can see, we've got pretty smooth airtime hills. This is a bit of a clunky old coaster, so I'm okay with some jarring moments. But to be honest, a lot of these moments are really nice. So as it comes around places like this, I mean, it's going at a pretty good speed. So using Traffic President mod definitely helps to choose the right speeds for certain areas. Comes through here probably a little fast. Let's change a bit of that. Well, let's finish our circuit first, and then we'll change that. And then it starts to slow down, but it's got some really nice little airtime hills as it returns back to the station. I think the coaster network definitely improves the smaller these bunny hills, and probably the more consistent you can make some of the speed limits. Alright, let's go back. What was wrong over here? I think probably 15, okay, yeah, let's just make that a 10. And that should solve that. Besides that, I think it all looks pretty decent. I didn't do a huge amount of these banked turns, just because it is an older roller coaster, so you're probably not going to get a huge amount of them. But, where they are, I think, are probably the most important parts there, and in particular, around here is just a really nice banked turn. I mean, that's a pretty nice moment just there. So you see how these guys are facing backwards? I mean, that's fine, but I'm going to just delete that car, and then we'll just speed him up, and we'll wait and see if we get another one. Okay, he's also facing backwards. Get out of here. I'm just gonna keep on cycling through until I get one that's facing the right direction. There we go. We got our second carriage, and he's facing the right direction. So it's just a matter of cycling through and making sure that the right one in the right direction comes. And you also want it to go pretty like at a halfway distance between this carriage, because you don't really, well, this train, because you don't really want them to be getting backed up or, you know, colliding or anything like that. Because this is just decoration, it's not actually doing anything besides looking awesome, we can in fact make this functional as part of our amusement park. There are a couple of options. You can create one of these crowd generators. They have 50 entertainment value, and I mean the visitor capacity is quite large, so that might not be the best option. I think that placing down one of these, one or two of these, just within the station just here, will attract people and make people actually go to the roller coaster as if it was functioning, and it will provide value to your theme park. So I'm probably going to do probably just the one. I mean, 150 value is pretty good value. But of course, we do need to make this into an amusement park first. I'm just going to drag out a park like that. It's not going to be massive. It's only going to go to the perimeter of the roller coaster. And then I'm going to place one of them, and then I'll just drop him into the ground. Just like that. And then that way, people are going to start going to this roller coaster as part of that cube that's going to attract people, which is pretty cool. So that means it is an actual functional roller coaster. And you know what? I'm even going to change the name of this block service. I'm going to call it Golden Nugget, the name of our roller coaster, so that when people, well, when I do click on people, they'll say that they're going to the Golden Nugget roller coaster. Actually, no, that's a terrible name. I can't call it that. No, I can't. Okay, we'll call it something different. For now, I'm going to call it roller coaster, and we'll just have to give it another name another time. Something else that I learnt when creating the roller coaster network is when you have two nodes, or maybe even just two segments that are too close together, I guess maybe this would be a good spot to show it. But sometimes you'll get a bit of bunching up. There we go. So you get a bit of bunching up of the support structures and, well, these supports. And the way that you fix that is just by using Move It, and it can just sort of rotate it like that. You know, just, you got to find the balance and then make sure that they're not. Okay, so that's okay over there. By the way, just look at that. Just fits in so nicely just in there. But the last thing that I want to do is I want to give our first person camera mod a go, because I reckon we could probably ride one of these. So let's see. If I click on this guy and press that. Oh man. Okay. So that's already pretty amazing. Okie dokes. This is actually going to work. I think if I change a couple of the settings, we can make it so that it is going to be super smooth. Of course, have a go at some of these settings yourself. I reckon just sliding a couple of these a little bit will, you know, obviously adjust it for your roller coaster. I think all of them are going to be different no matter what you do. But for this one, I found that these settings are working the best. And you'll be able to see that for yourself pretty shortly, because we will take a ride on our roller coaster. I will do it as a cinematic at the end of the video. But just keep in mind that when you are riding these things in a built-up city like mine, it is going to be a very laggy experience. So what I'm going to do to create my little ride there is I'm going to turn down my speed using the speed slider mod so that it is absolutely going to a crawl. I'll even turn it down even more than that. And I'm going to record the screen, and then I'll speed it up in post, and that way it should be a pretty smooth ride. But I mean, that is it for this episode. We are going to continue working on this in the next one, and we're going to add some rides, of course, and we'll do some detailing. And I'll think of a better name than Golden Nugget for our roller coaster. Maybe even Gold Rush would be better, but I'm also going to jump in the Steam Workshop and try and find some assets that I think are going to work well for our station, so that we can create some sort of, you know, more interesting platform, you know, with a bit of detailing and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to doing that, so that might be the first thing that we get up to. But that is it for today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. If you do end up using this pack, don't forget to rate it up on the Steam Workshop. Bad Peanut, Besquigglehausen, Sven Berlin. This is an amazing pack. Thank you guys so much for making this. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel and making videos like this possible. Marcus Thompson, Cesare Grossi, Anthony Labarca, W Tiger TW, Toby Cruz, Darren Morrissey, Janik F, Adam Dre, Stephen Voles, Jack Wren, Luke Whiffen, Zach Thibault, Michael Ferry, and Daniel Albert. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.